Lights off, head on the pillow, the room goes quiet, and within seconds your brain starts attacking you, not with facts, not with plans, with predictions. Everything that could go wrong. That conversation you replayed wrong, the message that might have sounded off, the meeting that hasn't even happened yet but already feels dangerous, the email you sent 3 hours ago that suddenly feels like a landmine, the look someone gave you that could mean nothing or could mean everything, the silence after you spoke that lasted 2 seconds too long, the text that's been unread for 40 minutes. You didn't choose these thoughts, you didn't invite them. They arrived uninvited, unwanted, undeniable. And if this happens to you at night, this video isn't here to reassure you. It's not here to tell you everything will be fine. It's not here to sell you on positive thinking. It's not here to give you another meditation app recommendation. It's here to test something. Not a belief, not an insight, not a philosophy. A 48-hour test you can run at the exact moment this starts. If it works, you'll know quickly. If it doesn't, you'll know that too. Either way, you get data instead of hope, because most solutions give you concepts, frameworks, theories about why this happens, explanations that make sense in the daylight but dissolve at night. This gives you a mechanism, something you can execute in real time in the dark. When the spiral begins and there's no one to call, no app to open, no routine to follow, just a sequence you can run the second the loop starts. This is not random. Here's the first correction. Your brain isn't turning against you because you're broken. It's not punishing you. It's not proof that something is fundamentally wrong. It's not evidence of weakness. It's doing its job. When the world goes quiet, uncertainty spikes. When uncertainty spikes, the brain runs simulations, not to torture you, to prepare you. During the day, your attention is rented out, to screens, to conversations, to tasks, to other people's demands, to the environment demanding constant response. Every notification is a bid for your focus. Every interaction is a redirect. Every task is a claim on your bandwidth. At night, your attention isn't rented out to the world anymore. The inputs stop. So the brain uses the bandwidth to rehearse worst-case scenarios. It scans for threats. It replays interactions looking for mistakes. It builds catastrophic timelines from incomplete data. It takes one ambiguous sentence and generates 17 possible interpretations. It assigns meaning to silence. It turns neutral events into evidence of danger. This isn't malfunction. It's threat detection running on overdrive in a low-stimulus environment. Your brain evolved to keep you alive, not to keep you comfortable. And in the absence of real danger, it manufactures hypothetical danger. Because the cost of missing a real threat is death. The cost of imagining a fake one is just discomfort. From an evolutionary perspective, that's a trade worth making every time. Your ancestors who stayed up at night worrying about predators survived. The ones who slept peacefully didn't. You inherited the nervous system of the worriers. The problem isn't that this happens. The problem is what you do when it does. This is the loop. A thought appears. What if I said the wrong thing? What if tomorrow goes badly? What if I don't sleep and ruin everything? What if they're angry and I don't know it yet? What if that mistake costs me everything? You follow it, you replay the scene, you adjust the dialogue, you predict outcomes, you calculate probabilities, you rehearse defenses, you build arguments for conversations that haven't happened. It feels like responsibility, like preparation, like you're solving something, like if you can just think it through one more time, you'll find the answer that makes it safe. The perfect response, the right explanation, the way to guarantee it doesn't go wrong. But every second you stay there, your brain receives a signal. This matters. Increase resolution. So it adds details, textures, dialogue, facial expressions, tone of voice, body language. Emotion rises. Heart rate shifts. Breathing shallows. Muscles tighten. Urgency appears. And now the loop has teeth, because the brain can't distinguish between real threats and imagined ones. If you're running the simulation with full attention, the system treats it as real. Cortisol releases. Adrenaline spikes. Muscles tense. Sleep delays. You're not preparing for danger. You're creating the physiological state of danger, and the brain interprets that state as confirmation. See, this is important. Keep going. The loop feeds itself. Each replay strengthens the neural pathway. Each emotional spike reinforces the importance. Each physiological response validates the threat. You think you're problem-solving, you're pattern-building. You're teaching your brain that this loop is worth running. Here's the paradox. The harder you try to stop the thoughts, the louder they get. Why? Because effort is attention, and attention is fuel. When you push against a thought, you're making contact with it. You're increasing its surface area, you're giving it more real estate in your awareness. The thought isn't just there anymore. Now it's there and you're fighting it. That's two signals instead of one. You're not fighting the loop, you're feeding it. Every stop thinking about this becomes another thought about the thing you're trying not to think about. The resistance itself becomes part of the broadcast. It's like trying to forget a song by repeating, "Don't think about the song." The instruction contains the very thing you're trying to avoid. The command reinforces the pattern. You try distraction, counting backward from 100, visualizing a beach, repeating a calming phrase, listing things you're grateful for, mentally redecorating a room, imagining yourself somewhere peaceful. It works briefly. For 30 seconds, maybe a minute, your mind latches onto something else, but the broadcast doesn't stop. It waits. It runs in the background like an app you never closed. The moment your attention comes back, the loop surges again, often stronger than before, because now there's frustration layered on top of the original anxiety. Why can't I just stop this? Why does this keep happening? Other people don't deal with this. I should be able to control my own mind. Now you're spiraling about the spiral. Meta-anxiety. Anxiety about being anxious. Shame about the inability to stop. Fear that this means something deeper is wrong. You try logic. This is unlikely. I'm overreacting. I should calm down. Other people don't worry about this. Statistically, this probably won't happen. I've survived worse than this. The broadcast doesn't negotiate. It isn't asking if the thought is true. It isn't asking if it's rational. It isn't asking if it's statistically probable. It's asking if it's possible. And possibility is enough, because the brain's job isn't accuracy, it's survival. And survival means preparing for low-probability, high-consequence events. A 2% chance of social rejection gets the same neural treatment as a 90% chance. Your logical brain knows the difference. Your threat system doesn't care. One person in history got attacked by a shark in a lake, and your brain will still scan for fins every time you swim. That's not broken. That's calibrated for a world where one mistake could end you. You just don't live in that world anymore. But your threat system doesn't know that. It's still running software designed for survival in conditions that no longer exist. Think of your mind like a radio. The station keeps broadcasting. That part is automatic. You don't control the signal. You don't control what thoughts get sent. You don't control the content of the broadcast. You don't control when it starts. But you've been confusing the broadcast with the operator. You're not the station. You're the one controlling the volume. You're the one deciding which channel gets the most attention. Most people never learn that distinction. They assume thoughts are theirs because thoughts appear inside their head. That's like assuming the radio station lives inside the radio. The broadcast happens. What you do with it is separate. And that separation is where all the leverage lives. Because you can't stop the station from broadcasting, but you can stop turning up the volume every time a certain song plays. You can stop treating every broadcast like an emergency transmission. So instead of trying to stop the broadcast, you're going to test something else. Whether you can interrupt the handoff. The moment between the thought arriving and you following it. That gap is usually invisible. Thought appears, response is automatic. Zero delay. You're going to make that gap visible, and then you're going to use it. Same trigger, new response for 48 hours. This is the test. First, identify the trigger. For most people, it's one of these. Lights off. Head on the pillow. The first moment of silence. The gap between scrolling and trying to sleep. The moment you close your laptop and the room feels too quiet. The transition from activity to stillness. Pick one. That's your test point. The moment the environment shifts and the loop typically begins, you're not waiting for the thoughts to start. You're identifying the conditions that precede them. Because the loop doesn't start with the thought, it starts with the context that invites it. Darkness, stillness, the absence of external stimulation. These aren't problems. They're conditions your brain interprets as no immediate tasks, run diagnostics. And diagnostics means scan for threats, replay recent events, check for errors, prepare for upcoming challenges. The protocol starts here. Step 1. Observe. A thought appears. Don't fight it, don't analyze it, don't follow it, don't try to replace it with something positive. Don't argue with it, don't judge yourself for having it. Just notice it the way you'd notice a sound passing by. A car outside. A voice in another room, a dog barking 3 blocks away, 10 seconds. You're not suppressing. You're not pretending it's not there. You're not minimizing it. You're creating space. That space is where choice lives. Most people collapse the gap between stimulus and response. Thought appears, response is automatic. 10 seconds breaks the automaticity. It doesn't feel like much. It won't feel profound. That's the point. You're not trying to achieve peace. You're not trying to reach enlightenment. You're not trying to make the thought go away. You're trying to create a delay. A pause between the broadcast and your decision to follow it. 10 seconds is enough to interrupt the reflex, long enough to break automaticity, short enough to be executable when your nervous system is activated. Step 2. Label. After 10 seconds, label the pattern. 1 sentence. No interpretation. No story. No judgment. No elaboration. Say this exactly. This is threat rehearsal. Not, I'm anxious. Not, I'm spiraling. Not, something is wrong. Not, here we go again. Not, I can't handle this. Not, why is this happening? This separates you from the broadcast. You're not the rehearsal. You're the operator noticing rehearsal. The language matters. When you say, I'm anxious, you merge with the state. You become the anxiety. You identify as the problem. When you say this is threat rehearsal, you create distance. You're observing a process, not becoming it. You're naming what the brain is doing, not what you are. It's the difference between I am the storm and I'm watching the storm. One collapses you into the experience. The other gives you a vantage point. This isn't spiritual, it's mechanical. You're creating observer distance. Step 3. Choose. Now choose a neutral signal, not a mental task, not positivity, not affirmations, not visualization, not anything that requires effort, something physical and boring, the weight of your head on the pillow, your hands resting on your chest or at your sides, the sound of your breath moving in and out, the temperature of the air on your skin, the texture of the sheets against your legs, the contact points between your body and the bed. 5 seconds. You're not trying to relax. You're not trying to meditate. You're not trying to force calm. You're selecting a different channel. The broadcast can keep running in the background. It just doesn't get the main signal anymore. Your attention has moved. Not with force, not with resistance, not with effort, with redirection. It's the difference between wrestling someone to the ground and stepping to the side. One exhausts you. The other uses momentum. Here's what usually happens. The thoughts don't disappear. Good. You're not trying to erase them. You're not trying to win a fight against your own mind. You're not trying to achieve silence. You're training a different response. The first night you might execute the sequence once or twice. The thoughts will return. That's expected. Each time they do, you run the sequence again. Observe. Label. Choose. No judgment about how many times you need to do it. No shame about repetition. You're building a new pathway. Pathways take repetition. The brain doesn't learn from intensity. It learns from consistency. Each time you don't follow, the loop weakens slightly. Not because the thoughts go away, because the neural reward for following them decreases. Your brain learns, this doesn't lead anywhere. It's like a path through the woods. If you stop walking it, grass grows over it, not immediately. Over time, no fireworks, no instant peace, no sudden breakthrough, no dramatic transformation, just less escalation, less emotional charge, less time spent in the loop, less physiological activation. That's how systems change, not through intensity, through consistency. 2 consecutive nights, same trigger, same response. At the end of night 2, answer one question. Did you run the sequence both nights? Yes or no. That's the only measurement. Not how well you slept, not how calm you felt, not how many times the thoughts appeared, not whether the thoughts were good or bad, not whether you felt better. Execution only. Because feelings fluctuate, context changes, sleep quality depends on a dozen variables you don't control. Behavior is binary. You either ran the test or you didn't. If you did, you have data. If the loop felt slightly less consuming, the test gave you signal. If nothing changed, the test gave you information. Either way, you're not guessing anymore. You're measuring. And measurement is how you stop living in hope and start living in evidence. Most people live as passengers in their own heads. They assume thoughts are theirs. They assume thoughts are true. They assume thoughts require action. They assume the presence of a thought means something needs to be solved right now. They don't. Thoughts are broadcasts. Broadcasts run automatically. The brain generates thousands of them per day. Most are irrelevant. Some are useful. A few are destructive. Attention decides what gets amplified. When you give a thought your full attention, you're voting for it. You're telling the system, more of this. When you observe it without following, you're casting a different vote. You're telling the system, this doesn't need escalation. Change the attention. And the system learns something new, not because you forced it, not because you convinced yourself of something, because you stopped reinforcing the old pattern. If you want the written version of this test, it's linked below. One file, no theory, no backstory, just the protocol, exactly as described. Keep it near your bed. Print it if you need to. Tonight, when the volume goes up, you'll have 10 seconds. Use them. Same trigger, different response. Run the test. Let reality answer.